Absolutely. I would, the coolest thing, if you don't know the ins and outs of the way it was ran when I was there, once you started practice or you got into the power plant after your tryout, they had three trainers. There was Pez Watley, there was Sarge, Buddy Lee Parker, and there was Mike Winter. And Mike was the guy when you first started that took you off in the ring, all the greenest kids there, and worked on wrestling, doing the mat wrestling, just getting down and learning how to do it. And the next step up, like I graduate over to the next ring over where Sarge was. And, these guys are running more intense spots, and Sarge lays the stuff in. So you go from working with a guy who's super light to working with a guy who I wouldn't call him stiff, but he's about as snug as you can get without crossing that line. And so it was a big eye-opener, but it was good. And so then the next step was to hang out with Pez. Now, Pez never got in the ring and talked about running spots. Pez never got in the ring and talked about, here's how you do a headlock. But Pez was a psychology guy and taught you the psychology of the wrestling match, how to make those fans stand up, how to make them sit down, how to lead them through a myriad of emotions that they're paying to, they want to boo and they want to cheer. But so many wrestlers to this day, I think, go out and focus on just doing some moves and they get mad when the fans don't react. And if you don't make an emotional connection with them, you might as well be doing collegiate wrestling. It's just guys doing moves. So until you learn how to connect with those fans and get an emotional response from them, I really think you're missing the boat. So that's the way we were trained, and that's the way I've trained anybody I've worked with since then.
And that's such an asset, too, because, when you're learning from I look at it this way. You learn from the guard that learned from the guard before them. So, obviously, everybody picks up something along the line. So, what the experience you've got is you were wrestling literally in the hottest time in the history of the business. So, what's the time frame that you landed in the power plant?
I went down for my power plant tryout in April of 97 and started on TV in October. It was a whirlwind of fast go through. And, Nikita Koloff, the Russian name, everybody knows who Nikita Koloff is. I grew up watching Nikita. Nikita and I have become great friends as adults, and we see each other at least once a month for lunch or whatever. And, Nikita does a lot of preaching now and speaking. He's been a great motivator and a great inspiration and mentor to me for my speaking engagements. And I speak almost as many times a month now, sometimes as I wrestle. And he and I both talk about that whole thing of us coming in and so quickly getting thrust into a national, international spot that taught us how to get in front of people and be comfortable. And you didn't have a choice. And it's funny that we both think that was God's way of preparing us for what we're doing in life now, because we do the same thing when we preach. We fly to a new town, we're in front of 1,000 people we don't know. We go back to the hotel and we fly home. And it's just, instead of wrestling, we're speaking and spreading the gospel. So it's a pretty cool thing that how fast I made it was, I think, totally out of my hands and one of God's deals. So, to go down in April and try out, I did WCW Pro Show down in Orlando that summer. We would go down and film 3 months of TV at a time. And then shortly after coming back from Orlando, Raven made a call to Terry Taylor about putting me in the flock, and the rest is kind of history.
That's a great comparison, number one, to the going out and the preaching, because obviously that is you hit the nail right on the head with you got 1,000 different people every night, just like you would at a wrestling show. That's fantastic. I never would have thought about that. Even all the times that we have talked to Nikita, I never put that parallel together. But you go right from the power plant to WCW on Nitro, ringside. Was it kind of a whirlwind to go straight into that world of cutthroat, political BS? It was pretty much the height of when I think the tensions would have been kind of rolling high, because everybody was fighting for their lives at that point in the wrestling business.
You know what? So at WCW, you missed that. Your statement was true. I think you might have missed it by, let's say, 6 months to a year, because when I started in '97, we were still beating WWE in the ratings every Monday.
Right. Correct. Yes. WWF. Correct.
And so we had that long stretch. And so when I got there and started, and again, down in the power plant, the guys would come in down there. Everybody was in a great mood, because the ratings were high. Everybody was getting paid and getting paid a lot of money. And so for me, you talk about living out a dream and a fantasy camp. For me, growing up loving watching Mid-Atlantic wrestling here in North